Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Samaveta Bhaktavrinda ki jai. Nice to see all the guests so enthusiastically attending the morning program, starting early. It was really amazing. And this is the beauty and the blessings of being born in devotee families. I wish I could have such a childhood in my life. It was a little bit different. Yeah. My parents were not so religious, even more opposite. They were quite atheists. And a little bit strange that my mother, she was a little bit of a side effect of my grandmother being too religious. And she was a Christian. There's one confessor called Seventh-day Adventist. And she was very, very preachingly every day, you know. But old age, she came a little bit of in a strange mood, seeing the works of Satan more than the works of God. So sometimes it is a little bit of a lack of philosophy, understanding that who is in charge of this world. In our tradition, we used to call it Kali, right? The Kali Yuga, the Mr. Kali is kind of in charge here, more or less. But still, who is more in charge? Who is in ultimate control? Him or Krishna? Same in Christianity, you say, who is in charge? Satan or God? Yeah. Sometimes there is a little bit of a misunderstanding. It's quite a few misunderstandings in the world about religion. And sometimes they said, yeah, God is getting old, and things are getting out of hand, and some young son, son of rising star, morning star, is getting powerful and taking things over, and God can do nothing. So this is based on the traditions or experiences we have in our families. Then old people are getting less powerful and quite weak, and even some Aborigine countries, and you know, they had this strange habit of bringing old people to the forest, so they stay there. In German tradition, there is also a thing they just live in the forest for the animals and eat. You know. But Vedic tradition, we know what it means. It means vanaprastha. You know, you go to the forest, you know, and in the forest there's lots of saints living there, so they're quite safe. Also getting very good association. So by blessings of some devotees, also getting out of the cities, and I came to this forest of Bavarian forest. It's most quite a forest around here. And very happy to meet the devotees and saints here. In such a way we can today read one of the most exalted book there is, Srimad Bhagavatam. We start a new chapter, which is chapter 21. And this canto, and the chapter is called Conversation Between Manu and Kardama. The whole book is conversations. The previous one was Maitreya and Vidura. So this is Manu and Kardama. And therefore we'll also chant the prayers to the most exalted personality, Vasudeva, who is an incarnation of Lord and gives us blessings with a pure consciousness. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Other great blessing is for the people who born in Bharatvarsha in India. They almost familiar with the Sanskrit. So when you chant Sanskrit, it sounds pretty good. Quite similar, many words probably. I don't know how much percentage words, but are similar to Hindi, right? Any scientists who can say how much? Yeah. Linguists. Yeah. My sister used to go in a university, this linguist faculty, for they learning different languages, and one of them was Sanskrit as well. Strange enough, mainly was Russian and English. But still, she brought one day this Sanskrit dictionary, and introductory words said there practically every language, more or less, and some of them more, some less, has 20-30% of roots coming from Sanskrit left over. So original language, it is Sanskrit, which used to be permanent in a whole earth, but gradually when the the culture decreased, then the main kings who were ruling the India, Bharatvarsha, they were protecting people actually from the other ones who kind of didn't want to follow the culture. So those who didn't want to follow culture, they have to move out. Same like if there's a strong government and a strong army, there's no place for thieves in a city. So all cities even had the fence around fortification. So you had to kind of face control, have to dress properly and behave properly to enter a city. Otherwise, you can live outside or in a forest, in the fields, doesn't matter. Gypsies, yeah, many Aboriginal gypsies, many cultures are left out. So for them, there is also a place on this earth, no problem at all. But the thing is, for the civilized people to be protected, they are divided, one live one place, another place. So we have to understand that Germany used to be also a similar place. Many countries like that. So when some of the local tribes didn't want to submit to the rulership of the Indian kings, they had to move out. And some of them moved to Germany. It's true. Yeah. Scandinavia, Germany, all the Turks, some of them were running the opposite direction towards China. There's a whole culture who don't have a beard at all. They have like 2, 3 here. There's even Sanskrit name for that, beardless culture. Yeah, Japanese as well. So here in this, just this short introduction to the things, here in this particular canto, in these last chapters, we are studying quite early creation of the universe. And previous was a little bit of an introduction how Brahma, who is one of the, actually the main creator of this universe, is creating, but his creation is quite sophisticated, since he's creating from his mind. Right, yeah? If you just think of something and it happens, it's quite an advanced creation. We would like to do that, no? But sometimes you have to be also careful, because if you think of something wrong, it happens too. There was a story about Krishna and Yashoda Mataji, and she warned Krishna, said, if you behave wrongly, there was some demon will come. He's very big and with red hair and strange teeth, heading different directions like this. So every time Krishna was doing something mischief, Yashoda Mataji was warning, like, if you do something like this, next time the demon will come. I can't remember the name, but there is naming for that. So one day, Krishna, he was kind of tired of that warning. He said, okay, let him come, why no problem. And there it is. Krishna's will is fulfilled just directly. And that's what it is. And Yashoda Mata, of course, she was afraid, first of all. Then she ran to Krishna, save me, save me. So our desires somehow are not fulfilled, but we know ourselves why it is, since we are here, first of all, away from Krishna. In material world, we must be sitting somewhere in the spiritual world, accidentally and desiring some wrong things, since in the spiritual world every tree is desire tree. So therefore, our desires have to be a little bit of a controlled. They fulfilling, but they have to be cultivated for some while. You don't desire like this and happens. If you desire for a longer time, it will happen, not straight away. So, but Brahma was creating a different way. So he was just imagining something, and straight away it became fulfilled. And not just small things, the whole planetary systems and planets and different races of living beings with different levels of consciousness and so on and so on. But here the whole story is getting narrowed down, and will be discussed about the direct sons and first generation of the Brahma, and we'll come to it later, hopefully. And there's the main sons and daughters, which are born from his body directly, and further on they were multiplying and creating generations also in different ways. So there was the saints, and there was Prajapatis, and then coming Manus. So now we're coming between Manu and Kardama, like this. So let's chant the Sanskrit. Viduro vacha svayam bhuvasya cha manor svayam bhuvasya cha manor vamshaha parama sammataha vamshah parama sammataha Katyatam Bhagavan Yatra Katyatam Bhagavan Yatra Maithunena Edhire Praja Maithunena Edhire Praja Vidura vacha Swayambhuvasya chamanur Vamshah parama sammata Katyatam Bhagavan Yatra Mathunena Edhire Praja Vidura vacha Swayambhuvasya chamanur Vamshah paramasammataha Katyatam Bhagavan Yatra Maithunena Edhire Praja Vidura vacha Swayambhuvasya chamano Vamshah paramasammataha Katyatam Bhagavan Yatra Maithunenandriye Praja Vidura vacha Swayambhuvasya Maitune Praja. Mataji? Viduro Vacha Bhuvasya Chamanur Vamsha Paramasamhata Gaityatam Bhagavan Yatra Gaipuriraidriye Praja Yacha Swayambhuvasya Chamano Vamsha Paramasamhata Yatra Bhagavan Yatra Madhuriraidriye Praja. Vidura Vacha. Vidura said, Svayambhuvasya, of Swayambhuva, Cha, and Mano, of Manu, Vamshaha, the dynasty, Parama, most, Sammataha, esteemed, Katyatam, kindly describe, Bhagavan, O worshipable sage, Yatra, in which, Maitunena, through sexual intercourse, Edhire, multiplied, Praja, the progeny. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Vidura said, in the line of Swayambhuva Manu was most esteemed. O worshipful sage, I beg you, give me an account of his race, whose progeny multiplied through sexual intercourse. Purport. A regulated sex life to generate good progeny is worth accepting. Actually, Vidura was not interested in hearing the history of persons who merely engage in sex life, but he was interested in the progeny of Swayambhuva Manu, because in a dynasty, good devotee kings appeared who protected their subjects very carefully with spiritual knowledge. By hearing the history of their activities, therefore, one becomes more enlightened. An important word used in this connection is paramasammata, which indicates that the progeny created by Swayambhuva Manu and his son was worshipped by great authorities. In other words, sex life for creating exemplary population is acceptable to all sages and authorities of Vedic scripture. Very short, since these are the first verses coming. We pray for benedictions. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The story which is coming up is leading to one of the main topics in this book, is about Kapila Dev. Who knows Kapila Dev? Who is that? In few words. Son of Devahuti. Very good. Something more about him?
He was a great philosopher.
Incarnation of God, yes? yeah, incarnation of God. And philosopher, and basically he brought the main thing which is being followed and studied for practically whole history of humankind. It's called Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya means counting. It's interesting then, when you study this created world by Brahma and originally Krishna, who had this desire to creation, but he not to connect too much to material energy. Actually, he doesn't need to do it. He empowers someone or some expansion or living being to do creation for him. Same like any building, including this one, and the times before, was created and built by particular workers, but the design, original design, was made by other person, and he probably didn't move a brick. He didn't do anything at all, you know. He was just putting lines on a paper. Architect, yeah, right. Original architect. But that is very important system in Vedic culture, that different activities have to be divided amongst the people. If you want to do the two same things, somehow they don't match together. And especially it appears in a Varnashrama system, when there's a qualities of people and they are divided. Kshatriyas, the ruler class, is separate, and the working class is separate. Jai Shri Shri Prahlad Lakshmi Simade Bhagavan Ki Jai. Aren't they beautiful today, huh? Mataji dressed with a great devotion. You can see. So, and therefore, the person who is in charge of teaching and learning and giving knowledge will not be able to do his duties unless somebody else does the hard work or the implementation of the things. So therefore, the administrative class, they like to be in contact with the people, they like to be in charge, organize things, oversee things like that. But many times you get lost in the whole action, a little bit losing of goal, or even losing some kind of ways to do it, the implementation, the side effect which comes as a deviation from this proper knowledge and proper working is the means justify the goal. Have you heard about that? It usually explains a little bit of in a negative sense, that you do something wrong, hoping achieving for good result. It works like that. If you properly understand the creation of God's nature, interaction of people, you will never think about that. If you try to punish someone in your work, like let's say a boss, and you think he will work nicely, for how long it's going to be? Unless you're really a working animal, an ass or bull, you know, the regular beating you will never have. Usually you need a prize. So there's always two things, you know, even for training dogs. I used to train the dogs in Russian army for a couple of years as a prison guard. And there's two things. When you want to do the animal something, you have to give him something nice to eat, and also some kind of physical push, you know. And when we're training, you let him sit, you know, and you just say to God, sit. He doesn't know what it means. You train new dog, sound doesn't recognize at all. So you say, sit, and then you take his collar, hold it up, and push his back down, you know, and do it many, many times. So after 20, 30, 40 times, when you say sit, he automatically lowers down like this. Even more, when he does himself that, you give something to eat. So it's this kind of encouragement. So these principles are working in this world, and they originally, that principle is coming from Krishna. And it's been implemented also in the whole system created by Brahma. And we see here also, it is emphasized that his dynasty was Parama Sammata, which indicates that progeny was very good. Previous chapter we also remember, who was here, that not only good things were created by Brahma, there were also not very pleasant things like fiends and ghosts and some demonic mentalities. They were also there. But they have to be there since, let's say, from previous creation, there's living souls who didn't finish their business. And they have their desires, unfulfilled desires, some plans, some karma to receive, stuff like that. And from that thing, in order to do activities according to their nature, Brahma had to create different levels of consciousness and planets and living beings and so on, so on, so on. So here we're studying the Swayambhuva, Manu, and Swayam is many times indicated as self-manifest or self-born, and that indicates to Brahma. Although we kind of understand it was not exactly self-manifest, although he's first living being in the universe, and Swayam Bhuva can be also a name of Brahma himself, but Manu was described as Swayambhuva, as son of a god. One of the places, Prabhupada, that translates the word as a son of a god. So we will do some little bit of reading, and I prepared usually more than I can read, but we'll see. There's two main subjects which I touched, a little bit of explaining of Manus as such from Srimad Bhagavatam. And a little bit later, if we catch to that, will be a session about regulative principles from Bhagavad Gita, which we also see here that Prabhupada is mentioning. So let's start with Manus. We here coming into the chapter, to Canto 3, but in the first canto, there are already some small hints of the subject. So when you study mathematics or literature or something like that, in the first year you say, this is the basics, this is ABC. And if we study later on, like year 10 or even university, we do say principles apply in the school. Like a professor or a writer who writes a book, he still uses the same letters, right? Same letters. So why his book, his writing is so important and read, and the person who is studying year 1 in a school, his writing is usually maximum maybe read by parents and maybe by the teacher, no one else. Since the idea behind those letters are different. But letters are same. So here also in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the whole story is beginning similar way, introduced main things. In the Bhagavad Gita, some say it's also ABC of spiritual world. Yeah, if you understand there is a soul, there's a God, there's eternity, the soul is never dies, stuff like that. If you go through that, and at least theoretically you accepted that, you are able to read further into the Bhagavad Gita, or Srimad Bhagavatam, based on Bhagavad Gita. Because the same subjects just explained more, widened, it's expanded. How devotees, how great incarnations, how they interacted based on those principles, you know. So here in the first canto, third chapter, 135, it is said that the form, the second manifestation of Purusha, is a source and indestructible seed of multifarious incarnations within universe. From that, the particles and portions of that form, different living entities like demigods, man and other are created. So original form of God, it is expansion of Krishna. So Krishna himself, he always stays in a spiritual world. But for material creation, he gives those 3 levels of Purusha of incarnation. So first one is Mahavishnu. From his body, all the universes from each pore emanate. Like small particles of seeds, and then expand like this. So second Purusha is, who knows the second Purusha name? You know. Unbelievable. Really? I said, that's amazing. At that age, I would be happy to hear that and know that. I hardly knew my ABC, right? So, Garbhodakashayi, what means Garbo? Garbhodakashayi means that he entered in universe as a womb, as Garba, as an egg. And it was empty, nothing there. It was just like nowhere to sit even, just hang in the air. So therefore, he expanded from himself the water, half of the universe filled with the water, and he lied out in that water. So from his navel, the lotus grew on up, and the top of those petals of lotus, then Brahma was Swayambhu, was manifested like this. So the third incarnation is Kshira. Kshira means what? The name Kshira means? Milk ocean, yeah. Kshira Dakashishnu, he's lying in a milk ocean. So he is the one who actually enters in the heart. When we talk about super soul, the presence of the God in every living being's heart, that's Kshira Dakashishnu, that's third incarnation. And he is also known as a predominating deity of the mind. Of, if we call it from point of view of Chaturvyuha, there's Vasudeva, Sankarsana, Aniruddha, and Pradyumna Aniruddha. So he's connected with the expansion of Aniruddha, and it's in charge of mind. So although we can say the Lord is in the heart, and we say that we are thinking with the head, not exactly. Our mind is actually based here. Funny enough, interesting, yeah. So mind is in the heart. Although a little bit different, we say mind is one thing and heart is another thing. Yes, Prabhu?
There is like in the computer, software and hardware, no?
Exactly, exactly. Hardware is our body and software is our mind and intelligence. Exactly. So when this verse explains the secondary manifestation of Purusha, the second manifestation means Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. So when he enters in the universe, he expands as a lotus flower of primary creation. There is no those universally planets or anything existing yet, but he already expands, like very subtle, like a blueprint. And sometimes says that lotus flower stem includes all the 14 planetary systems already. Although Brahma is created and there is no of them, but he said it's a blueprint of them. So later on, Brahma has to recreate everything like that. So therefore, we can understand that in the original creation, there's innumerable, uncountable, just unimaginable how many universes can be there. And each of them, Garbhodakashayi, he enters. And after that, when Brahma created, he is kind of expanding all these ideas, all the living beings and stuff like that. And the first ones were quite good. Also, understand the greatness and magnificence of that creation. We can count a little bit in the years. So now mathematics will come, who learned in the school. Years, we will see how the thing is happening. By the way, who knows the length in the years? How long is Kali Yuga?
432,000 years.
Jai. Usually in a class you raise the hand. Okay, but it's correct. So here we see that next manifestation, there was this in a purport, Prabhupada describes nicely, and here it says, the next incarnation are Manus, with 1 day duration of life of Brahma, which is calculated in the solar years as 4,300,000. where this figure comes from. This comes from 4 ages coming together. So if you add Kali Yuga is 1, 432,000, then Dwapara Yuga is 2 Kali Yugas, then Treta Yuga is 3 of them, and then there's 4. So how together is 4 by 3, it's 7, plus 2 is 9, and plus 1 is 10. So if you multiply the Kali Yuga time by 10, that's 4 yugas together. So this is calculated solar years, 1 Mahayuga, 4 yugas, multiplied it by 1,000. That's 1 day of Brahma. And how many days he lives in a month? 30, same as we. And how many months in a year? 12, same as me. And how many years he lives? 100. Hopefully, same as me. And interestingly enough, Prabhupada one time says that heavenly planets compared to earthly planets are people, living beings are Indra and stuff like that, demigods. They're living long, long times compared to us. But the sensation of the years is exactly the same. If we feel certain lifetime of 100 years is long, it's quite long. But still it's 100 years. So the sensation of the living beings living in the higher planetary systems, even Brahma, is same, because their time passes different ways. There's a small insects in this world who live 1 day. But for their feeling of that 1 day is so long, because their processes go so fast, and then they think in different ways. So there's 14 manus in every day, and therefore, if we multiply by that, there's 420 manus in 1 month of Brahma, and 5,040 manus in 1 year of Brahma. Multiplied by 100 is 504,000 manus in 1 lifetime of Brahma. It's just unimaginable. Each of them living for 71 yugas and so on. So therefore, it's unimaginable time lapses of this thing. And also, Prabhupada mentions here the names of manus. The Swayambhuva Manu is the first one. Which, by the way, Manu is now? No. Which Manu is now ruling? Prajapati Manu. Let's see. Okay, first one was Yagya as Swayambhuva Manu, Vibhu as Svarochana Manu, Satyasena as Uttama Manu, Hari as Tamasa Manu. Interesting name. Vaikuntha as Raivata Manu, Ajita as Chakshusha Manu, and Vamana as Vaivasvata Manu. The present age is under Vaivasvata Manu. So this is the 7 Manu. If we calculate those times, and one time Prabhupada was observing the Yagya Puja in India, and he saw the Brahmanas, before chanting mantras, they started to mentioning, today is a day of Brahma, which is, I can't remember he was giving a name or not. He is living for 50 years now, and it's the first day after his 50th birthday, and in this first day of this 50th birthday, there is a 7th Manu, whose name is Vaivasvata, and then this is that yuga, and this is that months, and this is that time lapse, and we are such a Brahmanas performing yagya in this slice of time. Said Prabhupada said, they know what they're talking about. They know what they're talking about. Since calculation and understanding where you are now is quite important. If you want to go somewhere, you have to understand where you're situated now. If you want to drive home from here, or you want to drive the Simhachala from your home here, you have to know, first of all, map where you are. I was for a couple of years in Australia, and those times there were no GPSs. There was only these maps. and I haven't seen anywhere else in the world. Probably there is, maybe I haven't been in America, but nowadays probably it's not anymore. So those days there was a book called Melway in Melbourne. The thickness was almost as big as this book. Let's say like that. That was a book. And bigger size, A4 book, like this size. That was Melway, Melbourne Way. So I asked my friends, please lead me. We're going to Sankirtan. We need to go this and that shopping center. We'll do books and whatever donations collecting. Please lead me that way. And first of all, I was questioned where we are now. Where we are now. Since we were driving highway and there is no dot on the book showing where we are now. And then you have to look out the window and which street is that? Okay, which street is that? And you cannot see, there's a huge page. You have to go back and look at the street names. Okay, this street. And this street is in the six different pages. Because it's long one. You have to look at this page, that page, that page. And finally, okay, other things besides the street. Oh, there's this shop. Oh, yeah, that one. This big building must be here. We must be here. Other choice. So such a way, we had to drive. And also when you drive something like this, if you are not driver, you cannot understand you're turning right, how much, like there's a sharp turn or back turn or this one. You never been driving. You're sitting in the driver's seat, you know. You ask the boy or your wife, no, probably ladies driving nowadays also, please lead me where I'm going, you know. And it's the other thing, to follow the whole thing. Because one time I had to do, because my person who was sitting was next to me was quite illiterate, both in driving and in mapping. I had to put my Melway thing on the top of a wheel and drive like this, you know. Okay. That was fun. So when we are trying to advance in spiritual life, first of all, it is important to understand which point, which situation we are currently now. In time-wise, also in quality-wise, since Prabhupada gave this book, and it's enormous, just one of the many cantos, and it's full of advices how to spiritually advance, both in a simple way, by doing direct process, and also engaging our family lives and attachments and stuff like that. So there's a direct connection and there's indirect connection. When I was last year in India, I met one of my favorite saints, Bhaktivedanta Swami, and asked him for his advice. I'm currently starting my life of Vanaprastha. So what is your advice? What I shall do? And he said, try to, as much as possible, engage yourself in direct activities, devotional service. Because sometimes there is indirect, like family person, he may collect some money, whatever ways he does it, in work or business or something like this, and then he uses that money in maintaining a family, and maybe, hopefully, there's leftover for Krishna as well. Or you can say a little more direct, you maintain your family and they serve Krishna. Or you maintain family nicely and you have time to serve Krishna. Meanwhile, while doing everyday puja or chanting or reading, something like that. Or best maybe serving prasadam to your neighbors and guests, stuff like that. So engaging direct activities is very important, and Srimad Bhagavatam definitely gives lots of hints and possibilities and knowledge how to do that. But also, since here we're starting the chapter about Swayambhuva Manu and Kardama Muni, and first of all, as we know, the family is coming up, and they will have a son, very exalted son. Krishna himself decided to incarnate in his family. But still, you have to engage your desires. Since he had a desire, Kardama Muni, he wanted to marry. He wanted to have a wife. For expanding Krishna's creation, and for expanding the knowledge and expanding his own absorption in a devotional service. There was quite a bit of discussion about his life, since his son is Lord Krishna incarnated himself as Kapila. But he took off from his family life and went to the forest. Why? Krishna is there in his incarnation. He has to go away for the forest. Since serving in a Krishna's system of devotional knowledge, it is important to observe certain time periods. And even Krishna himself is your family, you still take vanaprastha. And that for your family lives, maybe it's newer or less newer knowledge, but that was quite interesting. Also, don't think I'm just talking about vanaprastha because I am, but it's just the fact that one of the marriages Prabhupada was giving class before the marriage, and like 90% he spent time on explaining how important it is to give up the family life. It's true. And also Srimad Bhagavatam says, there's one nice commentary by Prabhupada saying that there is no compulsory. Vedic scriptures doesn't say that the man has to take sannyas. There's nothing. There is not said that brahmachari has to marry. There's no injunction. Doesn't say scriptures that. But there is injunction that the family person has to take vanaprastha. It's true. And why it is? It is because we can have the devotional service in family life. No point. There's no question about it. Even more, the Bhakti Yoga system allows the practicing of devotional service while you are grihastha. But other systems don't allow that. In some yoga systems, unless you are strict brahmachari or even sannyasi, don't even start to talking about. Shankaracharya was like this. Then somebody come to argue or ask him something about his philosophy. He said, first take sannyas, then we can discuss. Like that, there's no point, because you are too absorbed. You're too absorbed in your activities, in the family, in business and stuff like that. So I can talk to you, but you will not pay so much interest in that. But Krishna and Chaitanya and our Gaudiya tradition has explained that if you are trying to absorb those things, direct activities, doesn't matter which ashram or varna you are, that's a beauty of the bhakti system. You can do it any place, any time. Still, side by side, we have to learn also how to engage our attachments, our situations in devotional service. So therefore, this chapter coming up, and Manu is coming up, that how to engage the family life. And one of the main points was also how to find a suitable husband or suitable wife to the wife. So how to match the natures. This probably is worthwhile for the whole seminar, how interaction between the family members, the wife and husband, are important, especially how to find the suiting match for the people to maintain the family. So here is also in the future coming up that Kardamana Muni was offered the daughter of a prince, looks like kingly, but although he himself was kind of a more Brahminical nature. So how to adjust things? So princess had to marry to the Brahminical person, and that's advisable. The best, of course, it is exactly the same. But if the husband is a little bit higher in a spiritual husband, it's perfect. If the woman is higher, it's not advisable. It's anuloma pratuloma. This is two things, And if a Brahmana woman or Kshatriya woman marries some merchandise or Shudrik man, that will be not a very good result. there's a mixture of natures. This is some kind of misuse and not proper thing. Since just imagine the same male-female principle can be applied to the working environment. Since we can only think man and woman. No, the same principle applies also to the business. You know, there's a boss and there's a worker. It's actually more or less the same thing. Of course, a little bit more easy, not so much arguing as a family. But the same principle. There's a male principle of boss and female as a worker. Yeah, like that. So, simple principle, we have to adjust. So when you find a new job, you have to adjust to the boss. You have to adjust to the company. So the woman, when he finds a husband, she has to adjust to the situation where the husband lives. And the Devahoti, she adjusted. She didn't expect the palace, you know. She lived simple. But how she was controlling, how she is interacting in that environment, that was her nature. So that's a principle. When you are getting together in a family or business environment, you go to the work, you adjust to the situation and the rules and regulations of the boss. It's normal. It's not like you come to work and say, this is my conditions, and do whatever you want, you know. That's not normal. Unfortunately, this is the system nowadays, you know. I've seen enough that especially because of some kind of financial arrangements, woman is getting dowry or even like this, and the husband come to live in her place, right? So it's a mismatch, you know. It's not proper. It has to be properly. The husband establishes some kind of a simple place according to his means, but woman moves to that place. So most of Asia, especially Thailand, and many things, Indonesia, this is woman is becoming more important. So she has a wealth, she has a house, and a guy is coming there. You know, that's the thing. So therefore, there's not much spiritual advancement there, unfortunately. I just get carried away because there's so many things, and I've been asked to a little bit of a round up closer to 9 o'clock. Maybe meanwhile, when I'm discussing, there's some questions and comments, which come. Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
So regarding this, like what you said last about some like it's everything in Kali Yuga is quite mixed up.
Yes.
There is like basically even born in India or born in other places is actually everybody is on a level of Shudra unless they like really like to prove the Prabhupada said.
Mm.
With that, Srila Prabhupada said that like ISKCON is meant to create to re-establish the Brahminical culture in the
Right.
world. Yeah.
Right.
So as you said, like some who doesn't accept the Vedic culture, India was like the center of Vedic culture in the ancient world. Yeah. So like you said that some of them they didn't want to follow, they went away. Like for example, like for escape from Parashuram in Parashuram and stuff. Yeah. So we can recognize them maybe. Like for example, like I was studying also history, and I love like Middle Age history, like for example Vikings. No, you can like very easily recognize them by their deeds. You know, the first thing they did, you know, is raided, you know, one monastery in England. That's so like that. But what I wanted to say is like, for example, like Bhutan. Also Bhutan, they like a woman inherits everything, not the son. So there is like everything in the Kali Yuga is mixed up. It's mixed up like, but we luckily we have Chaitanya Mahaprabhu coming.
Interesting point you mentioned. It's also contradictory, and people are many parts of culture, Indian especially, don't accept that statement. You said in Kali Yuga everybody is born as Shudra. Kalau Shudra Sambhavam. It's a statement, but we have to understand that for many people which are not in a Vedic culture following it, it's actually a very high level. To be Shudra, it has to be qualified for that, because one of the basic qualities of Shudra is loyalty to his work. usually cleanliness, not stealing, behaving properly, stuff like that, being loyal to your employee. Like in Japan, we can say this is amazing. If you go to work to some Mazda or I don't know some company, there's no chance you change it. You live in one company for whole life. And when you go to pension, there's no question just pension of money-wise. You are thankful to your employee for the rest of your life. So the loyalty of such a thing, like if you want to give examples of proper employment and following the work ethics, the Germany and Japan would be one of the best in the world. I wouldn't say that's examples usually you give how they are family people. Since Germany and Japan are more or less like career-orientated people. Like Japan, if you are single without family, you get even higher salary, especially women. If you are not having family, not having boyfriend, it's recognized. Boss right away pays you more. Because you spend, there's nothing to do at home, you know. You don't much, well, maybe you party, but still, you know, there's not much, so much engagement. You spend some extra hours. You can sit a couple hours, not compulsory, but out free will. Maybe you spend 1/2 hour after work, or you come earlier. You don't run after, you know, waking up and bring kids to school, to the work, like, okay, like this. You are more dedicated as a worker, so you get higher salaries and higher ratings of the hourly things, how much you absorbed in it, you know. And Germany also well known that many women don't get married until the very quite age, since they think that career is more important, you know. Not like in a classical Vedic culture, the ladies get married at 12 or 15 or 16, you know. So for them thinking, okay, I'm going to be spending all my life in a kitchen. How is that? Although I think there was Germans saying there's this 3K kitchen, kinder, and something else. It was 3Ks. This is the duties. But that was a long time ago, last century. There was Germans saying that these are 3 things for Kirche, Kinder, and Küche. There's 3 things in it. Yeah, church, children, and kitchen. That was the 3Ks for the woman. The future perspective. It's true. But if you look at just recently, a couple of weeks ago, was my home country. I visited my brother, and he has 3 daughters. Yeah, no son. I think he has enough already of trying. And all these 3 daughters currently in this COVID situation, they're sitting at home. And they're working from their computers to their schools. And luckily enough, my brother is he's a software guy. He used to work in Saudi Arabia for Ministry of Economics. He was shaking hand with the prince, and currently he's upgrading the tax-paying system in the country. So he's a high-level programming guy. He can maintain family easily. So his wife has not been working for last 20 years, 15 years, whatever, a single day. She's housewife, but being housewife now, looking after 3 daughters and inspiring them to learn and stuff like that is a real challenge. She has to learn whole mathematics, chemistry, everything by himself. The whole 3 years, you know. Each of them is 3 years. So that is full-time engagement for women. So learning same physics, mathematics is a little bit useless, you know. What's the point if you don't learn how to educate your daughters? So it's impossible. But with sons is different. Sons, according to Vedic system, has to be in environment of the man. Srila Prabhupada, and he mentioned also, Bhaktivedanta Swami expanded on the whole idea that a proper man can create both the boys and the girls. but woman cannot. She can also educate only the girls. It's true. So if you want to learn the proper skill and proper manlyhood, you have to be trained under the man. So if the boy is staying home for the rest of his life, I think this is also a joke of many movies currently, he's staying with his wife, his 30s, with his mother, That's already misqualification, If he stays for 20, 30 years with his mother, so it means he's a little bit hang-packed. He's not really man. Man means he wants to do his own thing, earning, learning profession, spending time with the man, so like that would be proper. But there's many parts of Vedic culture which has to be kind of implemented, and we are trying to do here, and it's amazing. Sometimes it's slow. Like Czech Republic, they have, in one town, in Prague, they have 3 restaurants, Govindas, 3 vegetarian restaurants, places, Germany don't have one. All Germany don't have one, So therefore, it's interesting how the... Well, catering is kind of, moving, especially a little bit, But normally, if you go Mayapur, you go outside Vrindavan, Mayapur, how many restaurants are there? Just restaurants. Sweet place, this place, that place, the proper business and how to say, Vaishya and mentality of piously earning money like that, not going to factory, just having your own thing, small thing. You just make 20 sweets a day. You eat 2 sweets yourself, and rest of them you just sell it, and next time you buy the milk from next day, and that's it, And then, but you think if you work hard, you earn much money, but then if you work too hard and extra hours, you lose on 2 things, because they has to divide it in 3 things: your work, your sadhana, your spiritual life, and your family. So if you work too much, one of those other 2 things will suffer. Either family suffers or spiritual life suffers. It's always like that. So 8 hours max. If you try to work more than 8 hours, doesn't matter. You will not earn much more. Those wealthy guys in the Wall Street America, or the Kata or the Tata Indian machines, buses, they don't work like 17 hours a day. They work same 8 hours, even less. There's a story about, I just have to finish now. There's a story about one guy, and I think the Radhanath Swami, he went to visit him for the donation. And he came in the morning, and boss was not here. And around 10 o'clock he was arriving. And that single moment, there was like a whole, like a bee things, like flying around, and everybody's calling. He literally was talking in the 3 phones at once, and answering and giving instructions and everything. In half an hour, he was out of the office, and everything peaceful again. And that's it. And he was waiting. I want to meet the boss, guy. In the afternoon, he said, well, he's coming back. He's coming afternoon, 3 o'clock, he's coming. And the same thing, he came for half an hour. And everything was happening, like 3 phones at once, and everything talking. And then for half an hour, he went away. And that's it. He's working 1 hour a day. It took from 3 days to meet him. But the main thing, if you are meant to be, or you can earn much, if you don't earn, you cannot earn more than, like Prabhupada said, 8 hours. Not like you work 16 hours, you earn double. No, you're tired. In 10 hours, 12 hours, you are tired already. You cannot be working same speed, same amount. So Krishna is looking. If you work too much, maybe he will turn off your gas a little bit, oxygen, and because you're not spending enough with family or sadhana, if you're not chanting your rounds or doing some puja and offering, and kids are not looked after, so what's the point of your money? You have to spend money on them, not on yourself. So many Vedic things like this. So I want to round it up, since there is a next stage of service coming up as a prasadam prasadam is the mercy of Krishna to control our tongues and engage our bodies in a nice way to be able to work all day long. So therefore, thank you very much for attentive listening. I have to finish now. Sorry, you can speak later because I have to finish. And reminding a lecture that's here, we can pray to Srimad Bhagavatam as a scripture and Krishna as his source. Krishna's to Bhagavan Swayam, of learning this great book and understanding it, all these incarnations directly, indirectly coming from Krishna, and they are empowered, and by studying their lives, their interactions, we can implement those principles in our lives and purify our lives and gradually go back to Krishna's spiritual jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Prahlad Lakshman Simhadev Bhagavan ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.